Okay, so we are back. Let's see if this works. So I made some adjustments to my video. Let's see if this works now. Don't know. I don't even know how I got to it last time. I think it might take a moment for you to come up. Oh, I got one person again. Oh, and I can hear myself. Oh, I can hear myself. Yay, I did it. Yay, I did it. Awesome. All right. All right. Let me turn my own voice off here. Let me turn my own voice off here. All righty, guys. I figured it out. OMG, this is my first time doing this. I just had a thought. I mean, we just entered into, we're now, what is this, day 9. So we are at the close of a full week in the new year of 2026. And I was thinking to myself that if this past week is any indication of how the rest of the year is going to go, it is going to be wild. And I believe we have entered into the time where pretending consequences do not exist for our choices is over. That fantasy world we've all been living in for about 2 decades of where you can make decisions, have trade-offs, and feel as though you don't have to suffer any consequences, that you can have your cake and eat it too. I believe that time is over. And I believe Donald Trump is ushering in a new era. I want to talk about that just to kind of help us wrap our mind around where we've come from out of 2025, what we just lived through in the first week of 2026, and what may be awaiting us as we move throughout the rest of this year. Because many of us have gotten into the habit of just chasing headlines. And I get it. Every one headline come before you can digest one headline, five new headlines have just popped up, and they're all equally weighty. And trying to understand what is happening is like trying to drink water from a fire hydrant. It is very difficult, next to impossible. But instead of just chasing headlines and clicks, I think we have to have moments where we sit back and try to interpret the moment that we're in. And that's what I want to do in this video. And hopefully, more people will come on and we can make this a dialogue as you jump in and start having conversations with me. But nonetheless, let me just say this first week, OMG, right? We started off with Tim Walz coming before the people and declaring he is suspending his gubernatorial campaign from Minnesota. He didn't really give a whole lot of reasons. He just said he's suspending it. I think we all know it is getting really hot from Minnesota, the Somali Minnesota fraud, and that is going to take a toll on him. So we started off with that. We thought that was big enough, but apparently it continues on because A couple of days after Tim Walz decide he is going to suspend his campaign, we get word that Donald Trump has just walked into Venezuela and nabbed Venezuela President Maduro, Nicolas Maduro, and not just nabbed him, captured him, but flew him to New York and have now indicted him. We didn't know about that, right? But that happened. This is all in the first week of this month. Immediately, not even 12 hours after Maduro is captured, flown to New York and indicted, we get word that Iran is getting ready to topple, that the people have had it. They're doing what is necessary to topple that regime, followed by conversations in Cuba, that Cuba is next. Donald Trump's reignited his initial conversation about taking over Greenland. So now we have Denmark. All of this happened within the first week of the new year. And many people will look at this and say and think that these are just individual instances, that is just another headline. But let me say this as simply as I can, because I think simple things are usually the truest thing. It's the closest thing to the truth. So when you hear people like Kamala Harris coming up giving us word salads, you know there's some lies in there, right? Because it's too complicated. But let me be very clear here. Life is a series of trade-offs. And if I choose door number one, I don't get what's behind door number two also. If I go left, that means I don't get to go right at the exact same time. If I marry one person, I'm choosing not to marry everyone else. Those are trade-offs, right? You go behind one door, you can't get what's behind door number two. If you marry one person, the trade-off is you can't marry everyone else. That's called adulthood. And most of us knew about what was required to be an adult. I mean, can you imagine everyone running around like kids saying, mine's, mine, that's mine, that's mine, that's mine. Well, that's childish. And we understand that. Adulthood says, okay, all of it can't be mine. There are trade-offs, there are consequences behind my choices, and I'm gonna have to choose wisely because there are trade-offs. But somewhere along the way, we collectively have been sold the idea that trade-offs no longer apply, that somehow you and I are special, that somehow the rules don't apply to us. For example, no fault divorces, right? So now I don't have to just be married to that one person. I can marry that person, and I can marry that person, and I can marry that person, and everyone will be fine. The kids will be fine. What we're finding out, however, that the kids are not fine. Everyone, that doesn't usually work out very well, right? But we've been sold that, and we've sacrificed a lot. We've been told that borders can be blurred. You don't really need them. It's okay. We've been told that enforcement could be optional. If you think like a conservative, then the rules apply. But if you're a liberal, woke, then we're just going to give you the benefit of the doubt because you really love people. We've been told that morality is abstract. There is no truth. You can make it up as you go. That you can have unlimited free trade, depleting your industries in your own country, sending them out to your enemy, and that all will be well, right? That trade-offs doesn't matter, consequences don't exist. This is the new world. We were told that that the US government, the Federal Reserve, can print money to no end and that there are no costs. Debt doesn't matter. Don't even talk to us about debt, right? 38 trillion. This is a new economy. We've been told that there are very few consequences to our choices. We've been told that we can have our cake and we can eat it too. And as a result, all we've done is really postpone consequences from our choices. So we've postponed consequences from our choices and we've called it progress. That's what we've been told. You can have your cake, you can eat it too. There are no consequences. You can print money, You can print all the money you want. The US government can print as much money as it wants. There is no cost to that. All will be well. This is a new economy. We've been told that somehow we are different, that the rules don't apply to us. And so we could do whatever we want to do. And now what we're experiencing in the first week of the new year is that the delay is over. That's what we've been experiencing. The chickens have come home to roost. That's why everything feels tight all at once. The border, the war, energy, fraud, trust, and our institutions, ICE. Reality is coming and it's collecting its bill. This isn't a left-right partisan kind of conversation, but it is a problem. And we're going to have to make some choices. And we can no longer kick the can down the road. The age of pretending choices don't cost anything is over. The only question now is whether we face this moment and these trade-off, the consequences of our choices honestly, and voluntarily reassert order, or order will be imposed upon us violently. Those are the only two choices. Those are the only two choices. Either we will assert order voluntarily back into our country and our place in this world, or order will be imposed upon us violently. Order is going to happen. Order is not optional, people. Order is not optional. Order is coming, whether we want it to come or not. This isn't a discussion. I don't think Donald Trump was very accurate, I believe, when he says quite often, had he lost the 2024 election, this would have been a wrap for us as a country. Donald Trump said that had he lost the 2024 election, that this would have been over. Our country would have been over. Because you see, what I don't think we fully appreciated is that the world has been renegotiating power structures for a very long time. Yeah. The world has been renegotiating the pecking order and the hierarchy of life. Who gets to make decisions? Who's the top dog? They've been doing this for a very long time. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea trying to get in there, India, Pakistan. These people have been negotiating and renegotiating power structures for a very long time. The world. Again, the world has been renegotiating the pecking order of supremacy for a very long time. Donald Trump, what he has done is brought America into the conversation. That's what Donald Trump has done. The fight has been going on for a very long time. The battle has been brewing for a while now. Donald Trump has brought America into the fight because we weren't in the fight. We were just writing checks to whomever. We were shipping off all of our industries. We were shipping off all of our jobs. We were exporting LGBTQAI plus LMNOP, QRS, and all kinds of foolish things around the world. Sesame Street for gays all around the world. Y'all saw that long list of things that NGOs have been pushing out of it. So we've been exporting a lot of craziness, a lot of wokeism, and we've been importing a lot of cheap goods and calling that progress. But the world has been in this battle for a while. America is just now arriving into the battle. And so that's the conclusion. All of these stories you are hearing, whether it is Venezuela oil, whether it is Maduro being captured and being indicted, whether it is Iran toppling, whether it is our borders being secure, whether it is what is happening with Minnesota and Tim Walz suspending his gubernatorial campaign, or now with Renee Good being shot by ICE. All of these headlines, they appear to be separate and distinct, no relationships, no correlations, but there's a common thread, and that is a renegotiation of order. And that is what Donald Trump has brought into the conversation. And that is how we have to look at all of this. The whole world is renegotiating power. And the real question now is whether we will reestablish order voluntarily, not just here domestically, but abroad, or have order imposed upon us violently. Again, order is not an option. Stalin brought order. It was crazy and diabolical, but it was order. It wasn't chaos. It was chaos for the people who were living through that. But he brought a sense of systems and rules. Iran right now is diabolical for many of us who agree with freedom. But there are systems in place. There is a process in place. There are rules you must follow. Everyone know what they are. That's called order. It's crazy order, but it's order. Order is coming. And now that Donald Trump has recognized that the whole world is playing by different rules and have joined in the fight, now we as Americans get to reassert order on our own terms. So I agree with Donald Trump when he says, had he lost the 2024 election, this would be a wrap. It would be over, because the world's been fighting this battle of figuring out the pecking order, people trying to find out who's going to be top dog for a while now, for at least 20 years. America is just now getting into that fight. And so when you see all of these headlines, that's what you have to look at it. We've been living for a very long time, domestically and abroad, as if there are no trade-offs to choices, and as if there are no consequences, right? Renee Good just found out a valuable lesson that I pray others will pick up on. It's a hard lesson to learn. It's a sad lesson, specifically for her children who she left behind. But she, as well as many others, are learning there are consequences to our behaviors, to our choices. If you choose door number one, you're going to get those prizes. If you choose door number two, it's a different set of prizes. There are always consequences, good or bad. There are always consequences, right? Renee Good, for example, chose door number one that had the result that she ultimately got, right? Door number one said on the door, it said, hey, taunt ICE agents, get into the faces of people carrying weapons, be very chaotic and disorderly, make yourself ungovernable. And she chose that door. And on the other side of that door are consequences. Now, she could have chose door number two, which was take your child, drop your child off at school, at daycare. And then once you do that, go to the grocery store and pick up dinner that you will take to your home, and you will cook for your three children so that when they come home, there's a meal on the table. You can clean your home and wash your clothes, or you can drop your kid off and go to work and contribute to society. She could have chose door number two, but she didn't. She chose door number one, and behind door number one was her demise. And that is sad. But those are consequences. And I'm grateful for one, that we have now entered the age of pretending there are no limits is over. We've now entered the age of pretending there are no consequences for our choices are over. I'm grateful. And that's a hard lesson for a lot of people who have been bred on I'm special and I get to do whatever I want to do. This is going to be a really hard lesson. But we must, Donald Trump, ICE, all of them, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, all of them, we must lean in to this moment. Because you only have two choices. Either reassert order voluntarily or have order imposed upon us violently. And we cannot allow the few woke, fat, miserable women to make themselves so ungovernable that we lose the greatest nation on the planet. Because that is exactly what they're doing. I watched today video after video after video after video of every last one of them were white women, fat, out of shape, looking miserable, accosting, doxing, tracking, making themselves ungovernable in front of taunting ICE agents. We can't exist. We are a nation of laws and rules. And we have made a collective agreement as a country, the majority of us, that we will submit some of our rights, that with rights comes responsibilities. Hard stop. With rights come responsibilities. We've agreed we are a high trust society. We work hard. We pay our taxes. We take care of our family. We donate to charities. A neighbor is sick. We bring soup. We are a high trust society who have said there are certain rules that we will all collectively play by. What happens when you have a bunch of miserable people who have no purpose and now they're looking for a reason to exist, become radicalized because they're told they're little demigods and the rules don't apply to them, and they can go and get in front of people's faces who are carrying guns and nothing will happen. They've been told that they can do this. We are a high trust society, and we have decided there are responsibilities come with freedom, and that we will collectively play by these same rules. What happens when a group of people decide, no, I don't want to play by those rules? Well, what you get is that you get people who make themselves ungovernable. And as I said earlier, Renee Good chose door number 1, and there were consequences. If she had chosen door number 2, there are consequences. But she chose door number 1 of taunting ICE agents, doxing them, making herself ungovernable in front of them. And on the other side of door number 1 were some consequences. And it is unfortunate primarily for ICE agents. And it's equally unfortunate for the ICE agents who have to contend with this and have to carry the weight of having taken a life. And it's unfortunate for Renee Good's children, who now one of them do not have a father nor a mother. Those are consequences. And so that's what I wanted to do, was take this time this week, the first week of January, the first week of the new year. If it is indicative of what we are going to experience the rest of the year, hold on. And I believe it will. I believe it must. And I believe things are going to get tighter, because when order reasserts itself, it impacts everything, and it impacts everything all at once. And that is going to feel very chaotic to a lot of people. It's going to feel very anxiety ridden for a lot of people. But that is the cost of living for many years as if the rules don't apply, as if there are no consequences. For example, as I said earlier, we were sold the lie there are no consequences. You can make choices and you don't have to worry about it. For example, we said, okay, then, so that means the US government can print as much money as it wants and there are no consequences because this is a new economy. So now we find ourselves with a national debt of over $38 trillion. All of a sudden, it matters now. Remember, a couple of years ago, it didn't really matter. Now, debt matters. People are talking about it. But now we find ourselves with the situation of $38 trillion with an interest. The interest we pay on that debt is more than what our government collects in tax revenues. How do you survive with that? I think Trump has a plan. But that is where we find ourselves. These stories are not isolated. They're not random headlines. There's a common thread woven through all of these headlines. And what it says is that the age of pretending there are no consequences to free trade. The age of pretending there are no consequences to just printing money to no end. The age of pretending there are no consequences to open borders. The age of pretending there are no consequences to your hemisphere having China and Russia debating and struggling to get control of Venezuela, which is in your hemisphere. The age of pretending there's nothing to see there, it's over. And now we live in the age of limits and consequences, and it is going to feel very chaotic, but I believe we're going to see more of this first week. We're going to see more of this throughout the year, and I believe the pace is going to quicken. The consequences are going to get higher, and we're going to feel the squeeze in all of this. And I believe it is absolutely necessary. I see I have some listeners. Yay! This is my first time doing a live stream, but I wanted to get this out. I have a show tomorrow. I have a syndicated show across the nation, and it airs on Saturdays. And I usually post those videos here, but I really wanted, as we go into the weekend, to make sure that I kind of put this out there. Let me give you guys some examples of what I mean by living as though consequences do not matter, that somehow we're special and rules and consequences, economy doesn't matter to us. For example, let's look at the let me see which one. Let's look at, I have a couple of examples here, but let's take a look, I guess, at closed borders, for example. Borders. That's an easy one. Now, thanks to Donald Trump, 0 illegals coming into the nation, being released into the nation. That is huge because just a year ago, we had 20 million illegals coming to our nation. And many Americans, we saw it, we scoffed at it, many of us, but we just kind of moved on, right? Because apparently it doesn't matter. The rules don't apply. I know the rules apply. You know the rules apply. But we had a lot of Americans who were just waking up, going to work, taking their kids to basketball practice, coming home, eating dinner, going to bed, waking up, going to work, taking their kids to basketball practice, and on, right? We were just living our best lives. But what we saw was that if you do not control who gets to come, if you are incapable of defining who gets to come into your country, are you really a country? If you can't control who gets to come into your country, do you really have the supremacy to go into another nation and tell them how they should be living? It's kind of like if in my home I have no control of who walks in, who walks out, how people are living in my house. But then I walk across the street to my neighbor's house and I try to give them the business about what caliber of people they're allowing to be around their children. It's just stupid, right? So remember, I said the world right now is renegotiating the pecking order. Who's top dog? And as long as I've been alive, the United States have been top dog. No one in the world does anything without coming to get America's approval. Well, for the past 20 years, the world has been negotiating and fighting for for changing the pecking order. They don't want America to be at the top. They want to be at the top. And it just so happened last year in 2025, this war that's been raging for the past 20 years, America hasn't really been a part of that war. We've just been writing checks and sending our industries and our manufacturing facilities to other countries and exporting a lot of foolishness, right? Foolish ideas and behaviors and values and things such as that. But we really haven't been in the battle of figuring out who's going to be top dog and make the decision. Obama came in office. Remember, Obama said, we're going to lead from behind, which is literally, technically impossible to do, right? So Donald Trump has brought us into this battle. And I, for one, am very happy that he has done just that. But if you can't even control your own border, that's like the basics. That's like ground zero. Donald Trump has come in and said, no, we will control who comes in, who goes out. Right? So that's number one. But let's just look at tariffs. That too is a renegotiation of boundaries, an economic boundary. Who controls industry? Who controls political muscles? Look at Ukraine, the Ukraine-Russia war, China. Again, these are all boundaries of power. Where the sphere of influence begin and end. Did you guys take notice that right before our Department of War went into Venezuela and nabbed Venezuela President Nicolas Maduro, that just a couple of hours earlier, Nicolas Maduro's administration had just met with Chinese ambassadors. Did you guys see just a couple of days ago, maybe 2 days ago, that the United States just took control of 2 oil tankers that were leaving Venezuela, donning the Russian flag and being escorted by Russian submarines? Yeah. So here you have Russia, who should be monitoring the Black Sea and everything there. Here you have China, that should be focused on Japan, Taiwan, whatever it is that they're doing over there. But instead, they're over here in our hemisphere in Venezuela, making deals, renegotiating power, renegotiating spheres of influence, saying we don't just control Europe, Russia. We don't just control what is that? Not the Ignatian way, but what is that called? The first line of defense there. What is that? South China Seas. Not only are we focused on South China Seas, but we also have influence over here across the Atlantic and on your hemisphere. A renegotiation. Donald Trump has come in, disturbed the apple cart, and is saying something very different. So we're transitioning, renegotiating order, power dynamics is happening. It's going to feel very strange because we're decoupling, we're sanctioning, we're tightening borders, regional blocks. There's going to be a lot of internal stress tests with the fraud in Minnesota, the crime, the polarization, Renee Good, and situations such as that. What we're living through is America reasserting sovereignty, reasserting our ability to not only make the rules, but to enforce the rules and to maintain our supremacy and legitimacy. Now, there are some people who say, hey, we should just mind our business. fine. But what we learned during Obama's term in office is that when you create a vacuum of authority, the vacuum does not remain void. What you have are other regimes rising up and saying, well, let me see if I can fill that void. And if anyone's going to fill the void, I prefer it's me than you, right? So if there's a void, there's a vacuum, there's a void, someone is going to try to fight and get themselves into position. And if anyone's going to do that, I say we should be the one who do it. And so that's what you're seeing. The pressure will increase. So what happens when limits, consequences, trade-offs return? Like I said, you're going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel chaotic. But two things will happen. The pressure will increase everywhere all at once. And that's what we're seeing just in the first week of January. Look at all the headlines. That's something usually would stretch out over 6 months. All the headlines from Venezuela, Maduro, Russia, China, Renee Good, Tim Walz suspending all of these. So when limits, consequences, trade-offs return, two things happen. You're going to feel a tremendous amount of pressure. It's going to increase, and you're going to feel that pressure everywhere. And you're going to feel it all at once. It's going to feel chaotic. So as we move throughout 2026, it's going to feel chaotic, but it must happen. The second thing is that we're going to have to decide as a society how order is going to return. Will order return because we as a people voluntarily allow order to come back and reassert itself and play by these rules? Or is order going to reassert itself, be imposed upon us violently? Order is coming. It's not optional. Whether it's Donald Trump bringing order or whether it's China or Russia bringing order to us, order is coming. We just have to decide who is going to impose it. Will we as a nation get our head out of the sand, get these miserable, fat people who have no purpose, get them to go somewhere and sit down, put them in timeout? Or will we allow them to make themselves so ungovernable that what we lived through in 2020 reignite large all across the nation? And then we defeat ourselves from within. It's going to happen. So anyway, that's my take. I pray that it was a blessing. I would love to hear you guys' comments. I think I'm going to do this more often. Blessings. Talk to you later.